Here's integrated 3. This is problem CL10-198. We're supposed to write an equation for each of the following graphs. So there's basically two kinds of graphs that these could be. It's either going to look like a sine graph like this, or a cosine graph like this. And I'm going to use 5 points. These are so small. And I call this first point my locator point. So, like if I see a graph like this one right here, this one, see how the locator point, my first locator point, how it's like up on a high point? Because this is I'm going to look at the midline or the center line. This one looks like it goes right through the center of the graph. So I'm to choose, you can write it either in terms of sine or cosine. This is sine, and this is cosine. But it's easiest, I'm going to choose cosine, because then I don't have to have a horizontal shift or anything. So I see that I can identify my 5 little points. And so I'm just going to go through A, B, H, and K, because I know that my equation is supposed to go y equals A sine B x minus h plus k. Okay, so A is my amplitude. So I usually the first thing I look at is I try to figure out what the center line is, which is k, and I think it's just the x-axis, so that's 0. And then I look and see how far it goes up and far it goes down. It goes up and down by 1, so that's the amplitude. So for this one, I'm gonna use 1 as my amplitude. B, I have to do a little math with B, unless the period is 2 pi. Actually, this period is 2 pi, because that's the beginning and that's the end, and see how that's from 0 to 2 pi, that's 2 pi. The parent functions have a period of 2 pi. So B, in this case, whenever you're writing an equation for a graph that already on the picture it has a period of 2 pi, then B is just 1. Okay, we'll get into what you do if it's not 2 pi on one of the other problems. But basically B is going to be 1 because I see that this period is 2 pi. H is a horizontal shift, but I see that my locator point is right where it's supposed to be on the y-axis, so there's no shift. So H is 0 and K is 0, because K would just lift it up or down. And I see it sitting right on the x-axis. So I already chose cosine, so I'm going to put in a 1 for A, so that would just go right in front of there. I'm not going to draw a 1 in there. B would go kind of like right after, between the cosine and the x, but B is just 1, so it's going to be invisible. There's no H or K, so this is actually just the answer to letter A. There's other ways to write it, yes, but this is the simplest way. Let's try another one. Letter B, I have to decide which of the two graphs it looks like. Usually the easiest way to start is to try to figure out where the midline is. So I kind of, looks like it's going right through this line that I've drawn here, and that's -3, so I wrote K is -3. And then I look at these two graphs and I think, well, which one does it look most like? I see that it's got, let's put in our points here. I see that it's got 3 points on the midline, and that most closely identifies with sine, so I want to use a sine graph. Okay, I see that its sine graph goes up first and then down. This one's going down first and then up, so I'm going to want to flip my sine graph over the axis. I'm going to give it a reflection, so I'll put a negative sign in front of it. So I said this is right on the y-axis, so h is 0. I'm going to check for a, so it goes up by 1 and down by 1 from the midline. So a is 1, and b is actually 1 because if I count from here to the end, see how that's exactly 2 pi? When it's 2 pi, that's the same as the parent function. You don't have to, b is just going to equal 1. So this is actually the equation of my graph, because h and k was -3, h was 0, b was 1, and a was 1. Well, I mean, a is 1, but I have to put this negative sign on here to flip my graph. Okay. Here's another one for us. So this one looks more like a sine graph because it's got the 3 places where it crosses the x-axis, and see there's like, that looks like a sine graph to me. I see the center line is k, which is just 0 because it's right on the x-axis. Its locator point is right at the origin, so h is going to be 0. A is going to be 5 because it goes up by 5 and down by 5 from the midline here. Now B, when I look at this one from one full cycle, that's only pi over 2 right there. So that's not the same as the parent function. So I have to do a little math. So I know that the period, or if you don't know this, you need to write this down and memorize it or something. A period is equal to 2 pi divided by b. Well, I know the period of this one is pi over 2, so I put in pi over 2 equals 2 pi over b, and then I just do cross products because those are my fave. So I went 2 times 2 pi is 4 pi, and pi times b is pi b, and then I divided both sides by pi, and I got b equals 4. Okay, so then I just put these all together. A is the amplitude, it goes in front of the sign. B goes in front of the x. H would have gone inside some parentheses, and we don't have h and k, so this right here is the answer. And then letter D, I have to identify, well, first I like to look for the center line, and it looks like it's right on the x-axis, so that tells me k is 0. This one was a little hard. I wasn't sure if I should use sine or cosine, but I decided to go ahead and use sine. So I'm using these. I had to actually infer where the very last point would be, and that would be, you know, right past the 6 pi. And then here's this one, and here's this one. So I'm going to call that my sine graph. That's my locator point. It is moved to the right by pi over 2. So that's why I said h is pi over 2. And I see a, when I go up by 1 and down by 1. So a is 1. So the only hard part would be finding b. So remember, period is 2 pi divided by b. So I have to figure out what the period of this is. So what I did is I just thought of moving it back a little bit. Like if I move this back by 1 space and I move this back by 1 space, then I've got 6 pi. Or you could, if you want to make things hard on yourself, you could go, let's see, 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2, 8 pi over 2, 10 pi over 2, 11 pi over 2, 12 pi over, that'd be 13 pi over 2, minus pi over 2 would be 12 pi over 2. Well, guess what? 12 pi over 2 is also 6 pi. So whatever you have to do to figure out how far this distance is, did I say 12 pi over 2 was 2 pi? 12 pi over 2 is 6 pi. So I put that in for the period, and I set it equal to 2 pi over b, and I did cross products. 6 pi times b equals 2 pi. divided both sides by 6 pi, and b was 1/3. I just did fraction math on it. And so then I've got the amplitude's 1, so I didn't write that in. B is 1/3. And then here's x minus h, right? H was pi over 2, plus k is 0. And that's all I got.